Yo, what's going on guys? It's Dude here, and today we're back with a brand new setup video. Today I'm going to be tuning the Audi R8 LMS, of course not to be confused with the Audi R8 Evo. Now when you tune these cars, the Evo does have an upgradable rear wing, which makes it drive completely differently to the LMS. If you want to set up for that car, I actually already posted one on my channel, so I'll leave a link to that in the comment section below. Yeah, the Audi R8 LMS could not drive more differently than that car. Of course, not having the benefit of the extra rear downforce completely changes the dynamic of the car. The setup is a little bit different than what you might be used to because it's just, this car is batshit crazy. Now talking about the Audi R8 LMS, the main strengths of this car is the top end speed, number one. It doesn't quite have the top end of some of these super overpowered cars per se, but it does feel like it's made a jump from GT Sport, where it was an above average car top speed wise, to maybe closer to that upper echelon. And I also think that 201 miles per hour reading could be upped a little bit if I had a little bit more optimized gearing for the top speed. The gearing I have here is designed for tracks like Tri Mound, which has intermediate length straightaways. The other strength I see with this car is the rotation is fantastic in basically every type of corner. You're never going to have a shortage of rotation on entry. Also on the throttle, a lot of mid-engine cars like to understeer. This one does not suffer from it quite as bad as some others. You're going to have an easier time applying the throttle earlier in higher speed corners, which is always nice. Now as we get to the weaknesses on this car, not very good over curbs when changing direction. Now the R8 Evo had a similar thing where when you went over curbs, it seemed like the car bottomed down. It really wanted to spin sometimes, especially over the outside curb and going into braking zones. You got to be careful with this car sometimes and not get too far on those curbs. And also it can definitely step out at high speed off the throttle. Now this is a common problem with a lot of mid-engine cars, not all of them, but a lot of them, and this Audi is no different. In fact, this one might be the hardest to drive in the entire game. It was definitely the hardest for me to set up. Also, because another thing I didn't list here, the car does also step out a little bit in the low speed corners, like the hairpins and whatnot, which means if I ever wanted to fix that condition, I would really have to slow down the car on other areas of the track, and I felt like that wasn't worth it in this case. And I think just dealing with some of this car's natural shitty tendencies and try to avoid certain tracks that give this car a hard time would probably be your best course of action. Yeah, but without dragging this out too long, here's the setup, guys. So here in the R8 LMS setup, it actually does kind of look a little bit similar to what I did on the Ferrari, but there are some key differences. First thing I want to mention is the camber in the rear is definitely a lot higher on this car than it is on the Ferrari. That's because on the Ferrari, I was able to dial out a lot of the oversteer without adding a bunch of rear camber. Rear camber can be sometimes good in this game, but I find it takes away from the traction at low speed. But since this car doesn't really have that big of a problem on the throttle at low speed, the benefit of putting on a little bit more rear camber was worth it in this case. Also, you may notice I'm running tow. No, I didn't forget to take that off. This is actually the first setup that I've decided to run tow on one of these videos, because it does actually help make the car a little bit more stable in certain situations. It will hurt your straight line speed ever so slightly, but again, it's not like I'm running a lot of tow, just enough to kind of get more of a hunkered feeling in some of the higher speed corners. But yeah, this is the setup that I chose to run. It's definitely still extremely difficult to drive, but I tried to make the least amount of compromise as possible and keep it trimmed out. I also find if you lower the front downforce anymore, the nose ends up getting into the air over every small crest and bump and undulation. I know 415 doesn't sound like a massive upgrade over 400, but on this car I felt like I had to run at least that in order to keep the front tires on the ground, especially at Tri Mound. So yeah, transmission is not really too much to say here. It has a pretty forgiving power band, this car. With that being said, if you're going to be running less than 788 horsepower, or you're going to be running on a track with shorter straightaways, moving that final gear value to the right to lower the top speed and utilize all 6 gears on shorter straightaways will be really advantageous for you. And vice versa, if you are running this car maxed out and you're racing on a track like Tokyo or Sarth where you may need a higher top speed, moving that final gear to the left will also grant you a little bit more top end. You can adjust that first gear just to maybe accommodate the launch, but keep in mind that this will mean the first gear will be less usable in some of the tighter hairpin corners. So our lap today, of course, is going to be at Tri Mound Circuit. I don't know what to expect from this car. It feels fast, but it's extremely difficult to drive. So here we are in the Audi R8 LMS. Now I expect this lap to be really difficult, to be honest with you. We come up to the start finish line. This car does have really nice acceleration as well as its top speed that I mentioned earlier. Rev it out in 5th gear, get the car turned in. Got to be extremely careful with these S's to not get upset over the curbs. Want to really set this up nicely. Little lift over that hump just so we don't go in the air. Hard on the brakes. Now this corner is a lot harder than I made it look here on this lap. Definitely can catch you out and slide on the entry. Another corner, a little more challenging than it looks in this car, but we get the car turned in nicely. Use that mid-engine traction coming out of the corner. Into second gear here. Really got to be careful not to understeer to the left so you can get back to the right side, set this up, get to the bottom, and power out. Very, very close to the wall there on the exit, but we did get a very, very nice exit, and we're going to carry that speed down the straight. Audi R8 picking up steam here. Doesn't have that upgradable rear wing, but it's not catching the wind down the straightaway, so we're going to get a little more top end, hard on the brakes. We missed the apex a little bit. We're trying to manage the oversteer, and we end up missing the apex. That's definitely going to hurt our time a little bit, but thankfully we still got a decent exit. Hard on the brakes again. Car likes to change directions here. Little bit of a slide there at the apex, but didn't hurt us too much. Once again, try to get the car turned in right on that curb. Point and shoot. Exit. Really nice. And now coming up to one of the harder sections on the track for this car, believe it or not. You'd think it would be good in the low speed, but it does like the slide still on the entry. We get the car to the outside. Very clean and tidy. Again, this lap may have not been perfect, but I feel like it's really, really representative of what this car is like to drive. And a 141.475. Now that lap is actually really, really quick. It puts it right up there with the Beetle and right around where the Audi R8 Evo is. I'm not going to definitively say it's faster or slower because I don't know. Like, depending on the track, this car is going to have to be driven with more care. But I could definitely see on some of the more simple and flat tracks that this car is going to benefit a lot from a predictable and more easy layout. And I do think this is a very viable and strong option in the GR3 category, especially if you're looking for a challenge. Now, before we close out this video, if you guys enjoyed this setup and or the video, I'd greatly appreciate it if you click that subscribe button, as well as leave a like and comment which car you would like to see next. All of this really helps me out in the YouTube algorithm, and it helps me know which cars you would like me to set up here in the future. I do want to crank out a few more tunes from the GR3 category, but I am going to be moving on to some of the other categories in the game. As far as road cars go, I have ideas with releasing tunes in bunches for those cars. But yeah, if you have any recommendations in the GR categories, I'll definitely be sure to get to those cars eventually. But yeah, that's about it for me, guys. I hope you all had a fantastic night, and I'm out. Peace.